Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Converge Media, an Emmy award-winning platform. As you can see, our nice trophy here that resides now at our studios here. I wanted to thank Big O personally because, it's a big reason why we're here. Started the show in October. He's a modest man, so we've got our trophy here. It was an incredible night to be a part of. Here, Bell and I, and everybody that works with us, whether it's, Matt's here, Little O, now Ike's here with us doing this show, just to be a small part of something as big as an Emmy, all the greatness that converges, not only just an Emmy, right? The Governor's Award, which is
the highest honor,
that you can receive there is incredible to think about. And just so, if you hadn't seen it on our socials or the Converge socials or anything, we've got this. So we're, that's kind of the main team, I'd say, because Little O has been with me since we were doing the podcast. Obviously, Bell joining, then the man himself, Big O there. But not only that, I haven't said his name yet, but our guy Salman, the guy behind the camera, the guy that helps us look good and everything and all that. I wouldn't say I look good, but gets us all pretty looking for production, makes us all look nice and crisp. Look at this look at him all studious.
Nice and
this
crisp.
Guy all in crisp. Wanted to give everybody their flowers because it's a big deal. And so for us to be a part of something like that is incredible. And we look forward to getting our own one.
Yeah.
So we'll work on that. But, with that being said, I wanted to kick off the show with that. And now we will head straight into our news for this past week, the first week of June, getting things kicked off, sort of approaching summer. Technically, it's not summer, but when I think of the month of June, it's summer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll head right into our Seahawks news. Belle, what do we got going on?
Not too much. Just one thing in regard to team notes. The Hawks have signed number 9 overall pick Charles Cross to a 4-year, $21.384 million rookie contract. Cross is the last top 10 pick of this year's draft class to sign. So congrats to Charles Cross. And then I'm going to hand it back off to you for the beginning of some league news here.
Yeah, like Bell said, not much going on in Seahawks. They're going over, I think it's voluntary mini camp, so it's not like you have to be there. I think anybody that's healthy has been there in attendance for that, so that's good to see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll like to see the participation. Would prefer to not have to worry about anybody's contract holding out, that kind of thing. And we'll get to what's happening next and upcoming. But in league-related news, Deshaun Watson, the issues around him continue. On the 31st of the month, Watson is now facing a 23rd civil suit alleging sexual misconduct. On the 2nd of June, Watson was allegedly offering $100,000 settlement figure to each of the 22 women, now 23, that filed civil lawsuits against him in the spring of last year. On the 3rd, Watson's agent would go on the radio to defend his client, stating that making someone uncomfortable is not a crime. Also speaking about happy endings, which for lack of better wording, is ridiculous and just downright, I'd say, moronic to go on anywhere and say. And then on the 5th, another lawsuit against Watson, making it 24, alleging a graphic encounter during a massage in August of 2020. Now, obviously, these are uncomfortable things to talk about, but considering that this is league news, we want to be able to provide you with what's going on in real time around the league and keep you updated with these things, because obviously this is someone that's still in the league. Mm-hmm. I personally do not think he should still be in the league. But we obviously have to see the legal system play itself out and keep you updated on that as that news continues to break. So with that being said, just going to move it over here to the first of the month. Congress calling on Dan Snyder and Roger Goodell here, continuing with the Washington football team and the issues there. Both will testify later this month on the 22nd during a hearing for the House's investigation into Washington's hostile workplace culture. So more stuff around the league, and I guess a little bit of a happier note with Frank Gore here. Do you want to look at Frank Gore?
Yeah, Frank Gore officially retires. The longtime 49ers running back and number 3 overall rusher in NFL history will sign a one-day contract to retire with the 49ers. So congratulations to him.
A lot of bad memories of him tearing up the Seahawks. It's terrible. So, number 3 overall rusher, someone who's played some of the most games in NFL history. That's an accomplishment in and of its own.
It is.
Just happy that, for a while, his heyday with the 49ers is done. I didn't have to worry about the Seahawks playing against him. He was a guy to play against. That was tough.
Satisfying career for him for sure.
Oh,
so we wish him all the best in the future here and whatever he chooses to do next. On the 2nd, Ryan Fitzpatrick has also announced his retirement. He has officially hung up his cleats. The longtime journeyman quarterback retires after 17 seasons in which he played for 9 different teams. So again, congratulations and good luck with the future here. On the 6th, the Broncos officially sold for $4.5 billion. Walmart heir Rob Walton's winning bid for the Broncos will be the most expensive sell of any sports franchise, and that's wild.
It's a hefty chunk of change. I don't know. I just don't necessarily view Denver as that rich of a franchise. When you think about stuff like that, you think like the Lakers or the Yankees, some of the most
big names,
recognizable logos and franchises in the world, let alone or like Barcelona, stuff like that. That's a pretty hefty fee.
I wonder if the Russell move had anything to do with valuing
probably
them
helped
there.
it.
Yeah.
Probably helped. Yeah.
And as we move on here, all we have to look forward to, which is what we've had. Actually, Chuck has another piece of news here, so I'll hand it off to you.
Just relates to the NFC West. Yeah, right as we're going here, Aaron Donald has reworked his deal, so he will not be retiring. I know that somebody looked at it after the Super Bowl. He reworks his deal, getting a $40 million raise, which is a nice raise. I'd like that. Making him the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history. So it seems like we'll have to continue to deal with Aaron Donald here for years to come, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yes, as you're saying, late July NFL training camp kicks off. That's when you and I should really look at some of these things like roster cuts, and we'll finally get to maybe a decision about a quarterback. But that's stuff that we'll have to see in the latter part of the month here. So we will head over to the Mariners here, who had I'd say it was a generally positive past week, right? As we head over here to look at their series 3-game set against the Baltimore Orioles, starting on the 31st of the month with a 10-0 win. I mean, that's coming out and taking care of business, right? Player of the game, kind of interesting, right fielder / center fielder as he moved during the game. Taylor Trammell. Taylor going 3 for 4 with a run and 4 RBIs. On the first, not as positive. A 2-9 loss. So it's like, hey, did you score too many runs in the day before? Player of the game, shortstop J.P. Crawford going 1 for 4 with a run and an RBI. So it's like, okay, what do we talk about all the time in winning series? So it's like, okay, you can drop one of these games. We have to come back the next day, take care of business, and flush that out. It was a close one, but they did pull it out. A 7-6 win. Player of the game, catcher Luis Torrens going 3 for 5 with a run and 2 RBI. So nice to see Luis get a 3-hit day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what we talk about, right? That's what I say it all the time. Is winning these series. Series works. But it's just important that you continue that. And they did that. Obviously the 2-9 loss is frustrating in the moment, and you don't like to have to do that. But at the end of the day, winning more than losing is just kind of how these things work. So with that being said, you continue your road trip down to Texas. You play the Rangers for 3 games as well. Starting off that series with a 4-3 win. You're going to hear this guy's name a little bit today. Player of the game for that June 3rd win down in Texas. Third baseman Eugenio Suarez going 1 for 3 with a run and 3 RBIs. So nice there. I think he had a 3-run homer to give the Mariners the lead late. I think was that game.
I think that was the game-winning hit that he had, wasn't it?
Oh, on the top of the ninth.
Yeah.
And then June 4th at the Rangers, just similar to that Orioles series, losing that one 2-3. Yeah. Player of the game, left fielder Jesse Winker going 1 for 2 with a run, 2 RBIs and 2 walks. Winker having a 2-run homer late as well. So late magic didn't work there. And then on the 5th, just like the Orioles series, coming back to win that one, but this one in 10 innings, so making it dramatic. A 6-5 win on the 5th. Player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, again going 3 for 4 with a run, 4 RBIs, and 1 walk with another, I believe it was a 2-run shot on the top of the 9th.
Yes.
So, I mean, someone that I think amongst a group of guys that we talked about, just needing better plate appearances, has been playing relatively better in the last week or so, maybe 2. And with that being said, because of that performance, because of those games in Texas, you look at it, we'll just look at this, right? In those 6 games, you go 4 for 6. That's doable. That's acceptable, right. I would say. And then we go to our consummate player of the week, because we agreed heavily on this one. Eugenio Suarez. Do you want to? What did you see from him this past week? Obviously, the
game winner for sure.
Yep.
And then getting Julio and JP across as well. in that third game.
That double.
That was
right.
really nice.
That's right. There you go. Good call
Yeah.
on that. Absolutely. And this was a guy, remember, the news broke while we were here. This was this was a piece that we were recording, and we found out about that trade in the moment. And I know that it was regarded that Eugenio was just like a throw-in piece. He was a guy with a decently solid contract that had to be thrown in. And I mean, he's been producing. I mean, both, I think him and Jesse Winker have been really working themselves back into it. But I think he's pulling his weight at the moment, you know.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him once again be able to come in, no pressure, right? And then just like seal a game for them. And yeah, that was a very exciting one. So super happy that Eugenio stepped into that role and to see him just be successful.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the success of this team going forward, you want to be able to look at this roster, compare it to, you know, who mostly played last year for us,
Mhm.
who's mostly going to play this year, and say, at these different positions, are you better than last year? Third base, I mean, we all have Kyle Seager, and I'm not like some people on some radio networks. I'm not wishing downfall on Kyle Seager, but you want to be able to be better at third base, right?
Yeah.
And Eugenio has been pretty solid defensively. He's had a couple errors, but over the course of 162 games, you're going to have a couple of those, right? But this WRC plus and just having better plate appearances, as we look back here to the graphic with the 364 batting average over the past 6 games, pretty solid. So just to see that value, to see that improvement is something that I think is a step in the right direction if you really want to improve and find yourself back in a playoff race even a week from now, right? Because I believe you're 5 games out from the wild card spot, the last wild card spot.
Yeah.
And that last wild card spot is held by someone you're going to play this upcoming week. So we'll get to that. But that team is 500. So it's not setting the bar super high. It's achievable is what I'm saying. So we look at that player of the week too, Eugenio, tip of the cap there. We look over towards team news and sort of roster related stuff, which features some stuff that's kind of difficult. On the 1st of the month, Kyle Lewis was placed on the 7-day injured list, for a concussion that he sustained at the end of the month, retroactively from May 29th. So he's good to go basically at any time now. It's just whenever he stops dealing with that concussion.
Yeah,
which,
I thought I read he was still experiencing symptoms, kind of. So, yeah.
So still working on that. Abraham Toro, I called him Abe, and that got some comments. I don't know. Abraham Abe. That feels like a shoo-in, right? No, I feel like that's kind of hand in hand. I don't know.
Like not so good. Like people didn't like it.
No, there's like, oh, it's Abraham. I'm like, Abraham Abe. Come on, no, it's right there. I feel like that's permissible. But Abe Toro was reinstated from the 10-day injured list with a left shoulder sprain, so he would come back. And then the Mariners would send infielder Luis Chevalier to the Reds as a player to be named later in that Riley O'Brien trade when O'Brien came to Seattle. On the 3rd, Julio Rodriguez won the AL Rookie of the Month for the month of May. So excited to see that for Julio. Just some of these rankings, I mean, where he sits amongst rookies. First in hits with 34 for the month of May, WRC plus of 156, which he was first in, tied for first in homers and stolen bases with 6 and 5 respectively. Second in RBIs with 17 and 4th in batting average with 309. And you asked me if I thought he was going to win Rookie of the Year. And I think if he continues this pace, he's on track. I think he's a shoo-in. But that's obviously, as we just said, 162 games, a lot of things can happen. Guys can get hot, guys can get cold. First American League player with 50-plus hits and 15-plus stolen bases over his first 50 career games since Ichiro back in 2001, which is good company. I mean, do you have any? Obviously, everybody in the city.
That covers it. He's so exciting to watch. And every time he goes up to bat, I get excited. So
I mean, it's at this point, it's the whole J-Rod show thing. It's
fitting.
It's a show. Yeah, it's a show to watch him play up there. And, it's good to have guys like that to make this ball club exciting, because it's nice to have guys that produce. But when you guys that produce and are exciting and they're fun to watch, it just adds more of an element to turning on the TV, to going to the game, right? To cover the games even. So, no, I think that's fitting, and excited to see if he continues that pace.
Yeah.
Because I think if you start to keep these racking up, it's gonna be
Shoe in for
a
Rookie
shoe
of the
in.
Year.
But obviously, we have a lot of season to play. On the 4th, the team acquired left-handed pitcher Ryan Borucki via trade with the Toronto Blue Jays. The Mariners sent over infielder Tyler Keenan in response to the acquisition of Borucki, and then another response move, the team designated infielder Mike Ford for assignment. So best of luck to you, Mike. In league-related news, on the 2nd, a rival coach thinks that Juan Soto should leave the Washington Nationals. A coach of a rival team blasts the Nationals, saying, "Get Soto out of there. He has to be miserable." Just to address this really quickly, I know that there are some parts of the Mariners fan base that think we should trade for Juan Soto, but that would require a guy like Noel V. Marte, probably a George Kirby. Some people have thrown Julio in there.
No.
Yeah, so it just does not make sense to sell your youth for a guy. I get it. Juan Soto is great. He is really young. He's a great ball player, but you don't sacrifice that much for one guy.
No.
It just does not make sense. It would not. No, I throw that out. So just to address that in case there was any wonders about that. On the 3rd, the Philadelphia Phillies fired Joe Girardi. The Philadelphia Phillies part ways with their manager amid a 22-29 start to the season, and bench coach Rob Thompson will take over in the interim. Kind of interesting there. Girardi's obviously got some success in the MLB, but interesting to see a manager get fired at this point in the season. On June 5th, not all on the same page, several Tampa Bay Rays players opted out of showing support for the LGBTQ plus community by not sporting special hats with rainbow logos and sleeve decals, citing faith. Now, I used this word earlier, but this is ridiculous and moronic. I mean,
it's not much to ask for you to wear a couple things as part of your outfit in sports. So.
No, and it's not like you're wearing, I know that especially with Happy Pride Month, by the way, with that being said, that it gets tiring seeing the rainbow splashed everywhere. It's not like you're wearing a jersey that's just the rainbow.
Yeah.
This is a sleeve decal,
small portion,
and a hat you wear for, so that was just ridiculous, and obviously a big shame on the Rays for that, because that's just, for lack of a better word, that's ridiculous and moronic. So with that being said, we'll continue here looking over to what's upcoming for the Mariners, as they have a 24-30 record at this current time, 4th in the American League West. They can continue to move up, but they've got some heavy hitters
hard road ahead. Yeah.
So they continue on the road with a 3-game set starting tonight against the Houston Astros. The first game's on the 6th and 7th at 5:10 p.m. Pacific time, and then June 8th, a 3:40 p.m. start before a travel day on the 9th, and then returning home to play those Boston Red Sox that sit in the last wildcard spot, starting a homestand June 10th through 12th. June 10th and 11th are 7:10 p.m. starts. June 12th, 1:10 p.m. start, and we'll be on hand for that. But obviously, games like this are really important for you you're playing a team that's in a playoff spot ahead of you. All that matters, you have to win these games. You have to win. I'm not saying you need a sweep. You need to win the series, though.
Yeah, going into that 3rd Texas Rangers game, I thought of what you said last week, and it was just keep winning series.
That's all that matters.
And so,
you could get blown out in game 2 or even game 3, but or game 1. Just win 2 of them. Win 2 of the 3, move on, be out with it. That's all. That's it. That's it. That's what. If we're setting a goal for this ball club, win the Boston series. Well, win these next 2 because you're playing the top team in the division, and then you're playing a team in a wildcard spot. So, with that being said, Belle, let's head over to Stormland.
Yeah, it's kind of stormy in Stormland this week. So, unfortunately, we spoke about a 4-game win streak last week, and that was broken this week with 2 Storm losses. On the 3rd, they lost to the Dallas Wings. That was a 51-68, and our player of the game for that game is forward Brianna Stewart with 27 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 4 blocks, and that was the Commissioner's Cup game. On the 5th, they played the Connecticut Sun, and that was a loss, 86-93. It looked kind of like the Storm had a commanding lead there in the beginning, and Connecticut just there was one of the quotes that I heard one of the announcers say that they were trying to keep up with the Joneses, and it was Jones that really brought them back into the game. So Our player of the game for that day is Ezzy Magbegor with 19 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks.
Stuff in the stat sheet.
Yeah, she did really well. So this was her first game back from health and safety.
Health and safety. Yeah. Do you want to look back at these two? I mean, obviously, unfortunately, you couldn't be there for those two, but
you were. I mean, like I said,
you summed that Connecticut game up pretty well. But I mean, Dallas. I mean, were you able to get any of that? What did you see from that Dallas loss?
I actually, unfortunately, did not get to see that one. So,
I
will ask you, was that just kind of a blowout win throughout the whole?
See, you look at that
quarters?
Score, right, and that's a 17-point difference.
Yeah.
This was a game, and it was kind of similar with Connecticut here, where Seattle came out and Dallas came out hot. Dallas looked ready. They were just able to play really good defense. I mean, the Storm, you hold the team to 68. That's good. But you only score 51.
Right.
It just seemed like anytime the Storm would get anything going, Dallas would answer with a 3. And when you've got the guards and Marina Mabry and Arike Ogunbowale, you can't really afford to just give up the ball a lot. And there was a lot of Seattle got 2 transition points, 2 points in transition.
And that was Mercedes' first game back, right?
Yes. Yep. And it was, that was just a game where Dallas is a young team that's got a lot of talent. They're going to be good for years to come. And you just never really found your footing, and you're still playing without a full lineup in that game. Connecticut comes to town, and this is a Connecticut team that came into the game 8-3. So they're already second best team record-wise in the WNBA behind Vegas. And you get everybody back, which is good. But you're still playing a team that has last year's MVP in Jonquel Jones. Mm-hmm. And a lot of talent. Alyssa Thomas has been playing really well. She leads them in a lot of categories. She didn't score a lot, but I think she had double-digit rebounds and assists. So, making her presence felt. Brianna Jones off the bench scored 21. Jonquel at 25. Like I said to you before we started here, Seattle had 40 points in the paint, which is good. This is a team that primarily gets a lot of points from beyond the arc. And they really weren't hitting this game. They haven't found that 3-point stride yet.
Right.
This season. Sue Bird came back and she was doing all right. She had 17 points. But anyway, to get back to that point about points in the paint, Connecticut had 40 as well.
That's what I was going to ask.
You're matched there. This was another game too where Seattle had a lead early on. Ezzy scored the first 8 points. Seattle had a lead at half, barely though. Seattle was a 13-point lead at one point in the first half. The Sun went on a 12-2 run to end the half, and then you're up by 1 point. You're like, okay, wow, that disappeared quickly.
And the third quarter was kind of similar, wasn't it? Where they created a lead and then all of a sudden it was gone.
Yep, they had a 10-point lead at some point. And then, we went into the fourth quarter up by 6. And then 4 minutes into that fourth quarter, you're down by 8. You say, what happened?
Yeah.
And they never recovered from that.
What was the turnaround? What did you notice?
The Joneses just started dominating inside.
Yeah.
That is a really big lineup. Alyssa Thomas, they are without their starting point guard, Jasmine Thomas, who's out with an ACL injury. And so they've got a forward playing guard. So you got a big lineup. And you're playing again. I mean, we love having Sue Bird and Drew Lloyd, but they're 5'9" and 5'10".
Yeah.
So you've got a big lineup out there that's able to dominate inside. Someone like Jonquel Jones, who's a veteran who won MVP last year, was just they were able to have their way. And so the defense looked different than it has all season, right? That was the big point for us for a few weeks here, was the defense is what's going to get the Storm going. And their offense lagged behind to an extent. And you get this. You lose to a good team, though.
Yeah, a team that was competing for a championship last season.
Yeah,
so,
it had a lot of Jonquel Jones winning MVP. That's all, I expect them to be good again this year. This was a good test for you. But like Sue Bird said in the post-game press conference, this is a time for you now you've got the whole group and just build. Just build from now. Obviously, you look over the 8 games, you would have liked to come out of that 8-game homestand with a better record than you had. But it doesn't matter. You've got until August in the regular season to get things sorted out. Just go from here. Just build. You played a good team. You're going to lose games. So
I didn't keep track of Ezzy's fouls as she was receiving them, but she did foul out, right?
Yeah, towards the very, very end.
Okay, so it wasn't like a ton of fouls at once.
No, yeah, they were kind of stretched out, and it just eventually happened. They
Wasn't
dominated
sure if
the paint.
Affected her, or made her play more timid.
Probably, yeah, that probably affected it. And when you're playing two great big women, you're gonna think about that. So yeah, I'd say that factored in. But it was a tough week. But at the end of the day, if we're able to be looking at this team in August and they're hitting their stride, games like this won't necessarily matter that much.
And they certainly can. So moving on to some injury news here. As we said, the injury report for the third against Dallas, Ezzy and Zubird were both out on health and safety protocol. On the fourth, it was a clean report, no injuries. And then, of course, on the second, it was announced that Mercedes Russell would be cleared to come back to the lineup. So she was back for that July 3rd game against Dallas. And in return, the Storm did have to release Kayla Davis from that hardship contract. On the 4th, Sue Bird and Ezzy came back from health and safety. And so Kiana Williams was released from her hardship contract. The Storm now sit at a 5-5 record. Their standing is 3rd in the Western Conference, 5th in the Western Conference for Commissioner's Cup. And looking ahead, we have June 7th against the Atlanta Dream. That's the last home game of the 8-game stretch here at home, and that's a 7 p.m. start. On June 10th, play the Dallas Wings at 5 p.m., and that is another Commissioner's Cup game. And then the 12th, they're in Dallas once again, and that is a 1 p.m. game.
Yeah, so you go on the road and you get to hopefully exact some revenge against this Dallas team, playing them twice in a span of a few days. But yeah, I mean, the end of that homestand's coming up, and I'm sure we'll do a little thing where we look back at that.
Yeah.
But it might be a critical point in the season. It might be where you figure things out. But I'd rather you figure things out now than in July or late July.
Yeah.
Right. So with that being said, normally this is where we look at our Sounders, but they're in the international break. So there's nothing for us to really look back at the current moment outside of the fact that we have some little league news. The U.S. men's national team called on lawmakers. The men's national team wrote a letter to Congress pleading for action against guns, stating, here's a quote from it: "Our ability to affect change is limited, but yours is not." So it's cool to see, especially on the national team stage, that this is being called for.
Definitely.
And obviously with what I'm wearing today, the Storm had their Wear Orange sort of campaign over the last 2 games. And obviously, us doing that is great, but we have to continue to push for those in the actual positions of power to do something, because at the end of the day, just hoping and wishing stuff's going to happen doesn't
do much. Yeah,
can't manifest that kind of thing. So yeah, Sounders, not much going on. I'm curious. So they had a good past few games against Minnesota at home, against Charlotte. Do you think having that break when you're trying to hit your stride might hurt them going into their next game against Vancouver? Or am I fabricating something here?
No, I think it could go either way. Like they could have had this time to really mesh and practice and figure some things out, or it can just completely ruin the momentum that they had.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're in rhythm, right? I don't know about you, but I like to keep going. I like to keep going while the iron's hot. So that'll be interesting. I mean, it's a Cascadia matchup coming up, and those are always I always love those, because at least being there for those games, the ECS always has Build a Bonfire, which is a great chant. It's just always a really good atmosphere when you're playing. Rivalry games are always great.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's why I really look forward to these things. So next week, the Sounders welcome the Vancouver Whitecaps to Seattle for a June 14th matchup with a 7:30 p.m. start time. That game actually got rescheduled from its previous start time when the Sounders were going on their CCL run. So that'll be important. They sit at a 5-win, 6-loss, 1-draw record at 11th now, actually, in the Western Conference. They moved back, but they're still within striking distance. So with that being said, there's no Kraken.
We're skipping our Kraken again.
There's just nothing going on. It's quiet.
It's been too quiet.
Yeah. You'd have to. I mean, there was that piece of news we had the other week where they signed a top skater from, I believe it was Sweden, but that's about it. It's looking ahead. We still got the draft in July, and I think as we get into June here, we can start looking at who they might take with that 4th overall pick. But outside of actual news, we got nothing. So we head over to the rain here. Belle, why don't normally Belle is the
Wow, I
Kraken
normally
leader.
close out with the Seawolves here, but I'll take it.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. So we'll head over to our rain here, who played on the 4th of June at Chicago at the Red Stars for the first time this season. Unfortunately, losing that game 0-1. Player of the game, defender Alana Cook. Alana is, we got to talk about Fallon a lot, right? And how great she is in goal, but Alana is another part of that great defense. Recording a 7.8 rating in 90 minutes played, 2 clearances, 4 interceptions, and 14 recoveries. This was a game that was it was like a lot of the games that the Reign have played this season, where there's been a lot of opportunities created. You played really good. One goal could be worse, right? But you weren't able to convert anything. Right. And then you had a slip up early in the second. Their Chicago's goal was scored in the 47th minute. So it wasn't a late winner. It was something that happened right after half.
That
and it was
could have responded to, yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunate. But like with our Storm, right? I would rather you have these issues now and figure that out later and be that team that goes into playoffs hot than start hot. Like the Sounders last year started really hot and then just falter and lose in round 1. So, or even Storm did that too last year, where they started really hot, won Commissioner's Cup, and then just could not do anything else. So the injury report for that June 4th game against Chicago, Megan Rapinoe was again out with a back injury. She should be good to go for next week, but also interesting to note for the injury report, midfielder Jess Fishlock was out with a leg injury. Now, this was not good to see. It feels like Jess hardly ever misses a game. She won MVP last year, the league. So to have, and I've told you guys about this before, Jess Fishlock is the heartbeat of this team. She is the train that continues to just chug along here and pushes this whole club forward. So to have her out, I'm sure was a factor.
That's tough, yeah.
In that. So from what Laura Harvey said in the post-game press conference is that both of these two should be back next game against San Diego. And San Diego continues to be at the top of the league in record. So you're going to need it, right? But tough one against Chicago. Flush it. Move forward, right? So no team-related news, no league-related news. The Reign sit at a 2-win, 2-loss, 3-draw record. They will play June 12th at the San Diego Wave with a 2 p.m. start time. That one, like I said, the Reign are playing the team with the best record in the league, an expansion team with Alex Morgan. They're playing them on the road in the regular season for the first time all season. Should be a good test. I'm not really going to shake in my boots about it because I know how much talent this team has. But at the end of the day, talent doesn't matter if you can execute. So with that being said, we have some exciting developments over here with the Seawolves. I think we should look at team news before we go over game notes just because of how much it impacts it. Because last week we had the little slide. They're not going to make the playoffs. It was a good season. And
then there was a turn of events. Yeah.
So how'd that go?
On June 3rd, it was announced that due to Austin violating league rules, the Gilgronis were stripped of their playoff spot. Seattle had a chance once again for a playoff spot, but that all depended on the June 5th against the Giltinis, which they won 35-27. And there were some things that they had to hit in order to get that playoff chance.
I needed to get this correctly because I was texting my buddy who was a lot more up to date on these rugby rules. So Seattle needed to win, just outright, or draw, or if they lost, they needed to hit 4 tries. So at the end of the day, I'm a guy who, if I know that I need to hit certain requirements, regardless of what happens, I just do it, right? They got the 4 tries. So even if they had lost this matchup against LA, the reigning champions in MLR, and before this, the Seawolves had not beaten LA. Ever in their existence. So this was you're playing on the road, in the LA Heat against a team that has already secured, with Austin being out now. Technically they're the highest seed in the Western Conference. It seems like some things are going against you, right? Regardless of that, the Seawolves were able to come out. It was a tough game. It was a hard-fought game. It was close throughout, and they were able to pull that out. They won. So they got the 2 standing points, and with a win, you're in. It was a win, you're in situation, and they won. Like I was telling Belle the day that we found out about the Austin news, this is like, hey, you're back in it. It does not matter. I'm one of those guys where if there's a chance like for something like this, I don't care what happened. Obviously, we're going to find out what it is, and we'll keep you updated on that, which there is no official word yet. I mean, that was on the 3rd, and we're on the 6th now. You kind of
That's
think
interesting.
Austin was the number 1 seed in the Western Conference before that, and they got stripped.
I'm sure we're not the only ones that are curious to know what went on
Austin
here.
fans were pissed
because
you got no explanation.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously, but to see it, and this is the thing. The first 2 years of the MLR of Major League Rugby as a league, Seattle was not supposed to win it all. They won it all. So you're coming into this, you're playing with house money, and you're back in it. You're underdogs like you were the first 2 years. You're playing with house money. Yeah. I think you've got nothing to lose here.
You don't.
Like we said last week, as we put this nice little thing up. See, last week we used that for now it's got rain. Yeah. They're smiling for a reason. You're playing with house money. It doesn't matter. I would, like I said last week, I consider this season a success because the last 2 years into the COVID season, you went what, like 1-4, and then the season got cut off. And then the last year you went 4-12. So to come back and you're going to be at least 500 for sure. Because last week you're 8-7, now you're 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
To do that, they had a great turnaround all season. All the games that I were at, they had a great turnout. So hopefully next season we can get you out to one of those. You can see that environment. And then to beat LA for the first time, to be given a golden ticket effectively to get into the playoffs.
And they didn't waste that because they could have. Yeah, they could have not hit those marks that they needed to hit.
If you hit the 4 tries and you lost, and it's like, okay, then I'd maybe be a little bit upset. But you hit the 4 tries and you won, so it didn't matter. I'm excited for this. I mean, like you look at it, house money. You get to go to play Houston, who you actually beat the last time you played them. It's not in Houston, granted, so it's going to be on the road, which isn't always easy. But I don't know. You look at this team that's won, I believe, the last 2. They've got you're a team that's loose. Like I say too, with playoffs and going into it, you're the team that's hot. You never want to play the team that's hot, and you don't have anything to worry about. I don't know.
It could be a very exciting season.
I'm excited for that. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that. But so where we finish at record-wise, points-wise, and when is that game?
We're at a 9-7 record, as you mentioned, 4th in Western Conference with 46 points. And looking ahead is June 12th at the Houston SaberCats. That's at 6 p.m. So like you said, they have nothing to lose. Hopefully they take that fight and that grit with them. And let's see how far they can go.
Also, before we move on, I think SaberCats is a much better name than the last 2 teams that we were talking about.
Gilgronis and Giltinis.
I got somebody who on Twitter was like, I was excited to see that an LA team was playing a professional game, and then I saw it was Giltinis, and I was pissed. I was like, oh, I don't know how we feel about that consensusly, but having a professional team named after a drink, 2 of them, in the same league.
2 of them.
SaberCats.
Which one was first? Do we know?
I don't know. I think they all came in at the same time. I know LA won it all last year, so we're still working on MLR rules. I apologize, but so that I don't know. I was excited. That's the most excited I am amongst our teams this week.
Mm-hmm.
That's and then we didn't have a technical player of the game. Give it to everybody on the damn team. That's exciting. I mean, so we'll look forward to that this upcoming week. And with that being said, we move over to our stars of the week here, a name that we said a lot about in the Mariners section. I went with Eugenio Suarez. I just think that this is a guy that I've kind of been hard on this year because as a guy that it felt like we knew what we were getting with him. He's a 3 outcome guy. It's probably going to be a homer or a strikeout. Just doesn't seem like too much of an upside. A guy that's got a pretty decent contract, so you can't ship him off really. And I admit, I was. Maybe could have been nicer. Skeptical is a good word. Thank you. And at least this past week has been turning around at the plate. He's been pretty solid defensively all season. And like I said, if you're able to look at last year's lineup or even last year's lineup and know that you're better, that's a win in my book. Obviously, there's a lot of things to improve with this ball club, but that's one place to start.
He also blows some gnarly bubblegum bubbles.
And that's you. Do you want to get your hair dyed like him? I mean, do we
have
that?
We'll see where the season goes.
Is that in the photo? You don't want to have half of it like that?
we'll see how the season
Hey, if
goes.
he keeps
What
going,
if we?
I'll dye half of my head like that. We'll do that. You guys can hold me to that too. If he keeps playing well, we'll do that. But we'll go to your pick here. You went with Tyler Lawrence, France.
You did it. You name dropped him.
I hope
Oh
he doesn't see this. I'm sorry, Ty.
So yes, as Jug said, I went with Ty France, and the main part of me going with Ty was the consistency. So on the first, he had 2 hits and an RBI in the win against the Orioles. On the second, he had 3 more hits. And that was Wednesday's game against the Orioles, where he went 3 for 4 in, unfortunately, a loss. But on yesterday's game, he was 1 for 5 with a solo home run in the extra innings.
Yeah, that homer was what actually kicked off the comeback, because Eugenio's double, great, 2 runs, but also that you can't discount. I'm not going to say it again. Ty hitting that solo homer to lead off the inning,
exactly.
Because you get that, Eugenio hits the 2-run, and then he didn't score after that. So you could have just hit get the double, and then it wouldn't have mattered.
Right. So after
they play into each other. There you go.
Yeah. After the interview there, or after the game, J Rod was on an interview, and he said that France really was the one to like kickstart everything for them that game and just kind of fire up the team. So I think just like his consistency, his average being at .330 still, I mean, we can't say enough about this guy. He pops up almost every week. So yeah, just super appreciative to have him on the team.
Yeah. And, we'll wrap it up with the same thing and the appreciation, obviously, this bad boy here. I mean, that's still pretty cool to see. So to be on a Emmy winning platform here at Converge, it's like I've said several times, to be a small part of such an incredible feat is really honored. To be around the people that were here, Belle and I, Salman, before we go, going to put this back. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. And then getting the sort of original team that started with Converge here. So, it's excited.
It's always nice because we thank Salman, who does so much for us, obviously. But then there's Amari, who we don't mention too much. And he's obviously a part of the team. Yeah.
Yep. And again, I wanted to have Big O here with us, but he's a modest man. So we'll continue on with our lives. With that being said, we'll see you next week for the second week of June. The Mariners have an important series to play. For a few series. Seahawks continue with their mini camp. The Storm look to end their 2-game losing streak. The Sounders get back into play. Maybe we'll learn some things about the Kraken. Who knows? The Rain will look to bounce back from their loss. The Seawolves are in the playoffs, baby. That's all that really matters.
All that matters, yeah.
And with that being said, we'll see you next week for another episode of Circling Seattle Sports. Until then, do whatever you can to make today a great day.